So good morning, Jim. How are you?
Great to be with you and Meg this morning, and hope your
Likewise.
families are well.
So this is Jim Gaspo. He's a Ludden alum and current chair of the board for Bishop Ludden. You know, one of the things, Jim, that's really stood out to me over the last several years about Ludden is that, as the leadership really came together, where it was able to marry up to really the outside world and great professionals, many of which are who are alums, to leaders in education, and as you look inside the school, like that sort of combination through the board's leadership has really allowed the school to start to head towards the next level, or at least carve a path that's going to continue to propel it. This morning we wanted to touch base and give a chance for you to reflect a little bit about your Ludden experience. So bring us back to the time when did you graduate from Ludden, and tell us a little bit about your experience there.
Yeah, you're going to have me show my age, so thanks, Phil. I'm a proud 1981 alum. So kind of coming in during the end of kind of the Vietnam era, and many of our parents that I went to Ludden, alum whose parents, many were World War II vets or Depression kids. So deeply committed to the church, deeply committed to their communities, deeply committed to their faith. And I think that trickled down to all of us and had a huge impact on our experience at Ludden, because you did have a very strong sense of community, and that Ludden was an extension of your family. And I guess the greatest impact that Ludden had on me was every student was challenged to be their very best and to give back. And when I think back about Ludden, what had the greatest impact on me is the many sacrifices that the faculty, the clergy, and our parents made to help all of us enjoy a great education. I don't think many people realize the sacrifices that were made by our faculty, by our clergy, and by our parents.
Right. And I think we hear that from so many alums, when we talk to them about their Ludden experience. And I think for all of us now, it's easier to look back and reflect and be really cognizant of the great things that came out of those formational experiences then. But when you were 16 years old, 17 years old, what did you know was special at that time versus what you know is special now?
What I knew was special at that time is I was blessed being in a class that, and I was very average academically, but I was blessed to be in a class of exceptional students. We had a handful of students ultimately graduate from the academies. We had a couple of students go to Ivy schools. We had a number of students go on and receive their engineering degrees.
Yep.
And also we had a classmate who also went on and is now the vice principal at CBA. She's a nun.
Oh, cool.
So when you think about that, here's this small West Side school, multiple kids going to a military academy, multiple kids going to Ivy, multiple kids going on and receiving their, professional education at some of the best schools around. It says an awful lot about a school that had a population of 1,000 students at the time.
Right. So what happened for you after Ludden? What was your path?
Sure. So I went down kind of a little bit of a self-search. I always was infatuated with New York City. So I started my academic career at a small school on Staten Island, which I really enjoyed and had a great time there. But that was the problem, too good of a time. And so, my parents being both blue-collar workers, I think were expecting more of me. So we had a long chat after my sophomore year. And I was blessed being a resident of Salve. The chairman of the accounting department at Lemoyne was a Salve resident, friend of my father. I'm of Spanish origin. the dean of accounting at Lemoyne was of Spanish origin. So
Frank
we
Fernandez.
thought, yeah, Frank. So I ended up at Lemoyne. And that was really a continuation of the experience that I had at Ludden.
So Jim, you are currently serving as a regional vice president for TD Bank. You oversee commercial banking for a huge area throughout New York State. Do I have that correct?
You have it correct. Yep.
So tell us, being in the position that you are now, responsible for so many people and, helping so many mid and very large size businesses all throughout, covering a vast region, and especially reflect a little bit on the current crisis. I mean, we're at this time where we have the COVID-19 crisis virtually gripping the nation. What about your Ludden experience is serving you well, as you approach your family, as you approach your work during this time?
Well, I think first and foremost, you got to have a belief in a higher being. So obviously, God has a great influence on me, and you just got to believe that we're going to make this through together. So I think where Ludden has an impact on me, not only today, but had a great impact on me after 9/11 was don't give up, don't despair, come together, and really have that can-do attitude that you will persevere. And, I think a lot of that, though, also, Phil, came through from our faculty and our parents at the time at Ludden, because remember, they were the survivors of the Depression. They were survivors of World War II. So all of us heard those stories. And when I compare what I'm going through today and maybe what all of us experienced after 9/11, I think that pales in comparison to what our parents went through during the Great Depression and during World War II. So they got through it, so I'm confident we'll get through it.
So I know that over the last couple of years, you and other board members and faculty and staff and parents and a lot of constituents who are helping to really lead the school have come together and started to chart a course for, helping the school to continue to rise during a time when private institutions, both at this level, at Ludden and at the higher education level, are really, facing challenges in the marketplace. Even before the current crisis, there's a shrinking demographic of people who can really commit themselves and have the resources to attain this type of level of education. And yet the world is calling for this type of education, one that has a moral compass more than ever now. Talk to us about what you're hoping, even during this current crisis, and beyond, like how the Ludden community can come together.
Great. Well, I think there's a number of ways, but thanks for this question, because I think it points to the future of where Ludden is headed. But again, it's built upon the foundation of what we've been given over the last 55 years from the school's past. So I think what we're trying to do is to leverage the independence that the diocese has given us. So I don't think many people realize this. The board and the local administration at the school, led by Principal Cosgrove, run the day-to-day operations and set the direction of the school. So we've been given a fair amount of autonomy from the diocese, which I don't think a lot of people realize.
Sure.
But I should also admit, we to this day continue to receive support from the diocese through the West Side parishes, which we're very appreciative of and helps many of our students attend Bishop Ludden. But I guess where we're headed, Phil, is we want to be the preeminent academic institution in Central New York. And I think evidenced by Leo's leadership over the last 2 years, the academic performance of our students has risen dramatically.
And you're talking about, so Leo is the
principal.
Is the new
Leo.
principal.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
He's got a great background in academic experience, doesn't he?
Yeah, so Leo was actually one of the lead individuals at Corcoran High School when they adopted and became certified in International Baccalaureate. So we were able to leverage Leo's experience along with some other current faculty members who propelled us through the IB certification process much faster than many people thought, which is quite an achievement.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And it's not just attractive to the parents, it's attractive to the students. This is a world recognized program for preparation.
It is. And I think, you take that academic rigor with educating the whole person. And I think the other piece that we offer that's very unique is that one-on-one engagement and the opportunity for many of our students to participate in multiple programs. Sometimes there is strength in smaller numbers.
Yes.
And right now, when you have a student population of 300, if a student wants to participate in robotics, if a student wants to participate in the drama program, and the student wants to participate in a couple of athletic programs, that is a real option for a student at Bishop Ludden. And when you're at some of the larger schools, that becomes more difficult. And I think the other piece is that old adage, no student left behind. When you have, an enrollment in that 3 to 350 range, with the strong personal touch that Leo and the faculty give, it really creates a unique experience. And one thing that I'm really proud of today is you asked a question earlier about, the impact of the virus and how it's, Leo is meeting with the faculty every weekend, and the faculty is going through and continuing on with the curriculum that we would be delivering in person. And we are not leaving any student behind. And we are ensuring that what they expected from us at the beginning of the year, they're going to continue to receive.
But we've had alums, so all of us touched base by phone last week, and Ludden has already had alums say, is there anything I can do to be helpful? Which is unique, but characteristic of a lot of, your peers. And I think that what's been interesting is you see some other nonprofit institutions feel very stressed right now, and their needs are changing because they weren't prepared for this. But not only are you still delivering the education, your needs continue to be those things that Phil just talked about that your leadership team already identified. It's helping families have access to this experience and ensuring the IB program, which you already have, but the rollout, the continuation of that, as well as the attraction and retainment of the families who want the experience. So to alums who pose that question, the response is really what it always has been. Is that true?
It is true. And I think, there's a lot of people that I could call out, but there's two people in particular I'd like to recognize that are alum. One, Paul Tremont, who recently, stepped back from his very leadership CEO role at Syracuse Research, which we're very proud of. Paul has come back into the school on multiple occasions, giving Leo some guidance about our robotics programs. We're very proud of that. We welcome our alumni to come back and re-engage in the school.
Right.
It's not just so much about giving financially, it's about being a mentor, giving us real world practical experience. So I can't thank Paul enough. And then selfishly, I've got a fellow classmate, Trish Gray, who's also a proud veteran, and we're very proud of her. Trish is a graduate of the United States Military Academy. She's her class rep for the United States Military Academy and does a lot of alumni engagement with them. Well, she's now doing the same thing with us. So here's two alum that have had very successful careers who have completely re-engaged in the school. And I guess the final point I'll make is, I shouldn't discount, someone who's recently joined our staff, Kathy Gilhenny, class of 1980. Kathy's wearing two hats right now, both as our VP of Finance and also Director of Development. And as Leo would say, she's the first person in the morning, the last person to leave. She is a tireless worker, someone who we could not replace with three people. So there's 3 examples of
Right.
alum giving back in a huge way.
You know, I think so much of life is about exposure, and you know, to your point about these successful alums who are coming back, they're either helping out or they're providing advice, they're talking to students, and for students to be able to see that there is a pathway to these great positions of success, these great leaders throughout
Yeah.
communities all throughout the U.S. And Ludden has a surprising number of these types of people. That type of, you know, visualization from where you are now to where you can be and what you can do is so powerful. And I've heard you say before, we're going to always lead our efforts around, you know, developing, you know, really meaningful and genuine relationships with our alums. We have them with each other, but now we want to build those back to the school. And so, you know, I think that our approach or your approach, you know, towards this is really spot on. And so that's why we get the, you know, the people like you're mentioning to come back and to expose themselves, you know, in a way that gives students, you know, a larger vision of what's possible. And, you know, so that's extremely meaningful.
Yeah, there's more than one way to be helpful, right? And there's kind of a chance for every alum to do something with Ludden.
So Jim, you also mentioned before, you know, one of the things that you want to be able to do is highlight those alums, right? And to be able to engage them by, you know, putting a spotlight on them and showing the students, you know, what they do. So just as, you know, we're kind of doing here with you this morning, you know, there's an opportunity to interview and get a sense for what was important to several alums and what they're doing now and why Ludden was formational to them. So what would you say to those people that, you know, Kathy is going to reach out to and try and interact with in this way, you know, for the benefit of the students? What would you say to them?
Please give us 20 minutes of your time. We'd love to hear your story, because it is truly an inspiration for our students, but also for our faculty.
Yeah.
Because I think it gives our faculty, you know, a great sense of accomplishment when they see, hey, this is a person that I influenced. This is a person that, you know, I helped mold into the successful individual they've become today. So, you know, Grace Rooney from the board kind of leads that initiative for us. And Grace has been doing a lot of one-on-one interviews. And for those who are receiving our newsletter, you're seeing those spotlights. And if you're not receiving our newsletter, but you happen to see this video, please send us your email. We'd love to get you back on our mailing list.
Yeah,
That's
include
great.
you. Yeah. So thank you, Jim. This has been really helpful. And I know that not just now, but especially now, we spend a lot of time in front of screens. And it's interesting to hear and see something that feels a little more behind the scenes and kind of gives a nugget of inspiration, which we could all use.
Well, and Phil and Meg, always great to catch up with you, and thank you for your time. Best to your family and to our broader Ludden family. Please be safe. And we are all praying for you. And please, if you are in need, please reach out to us. You're still part of our family. We will never forget you, and we hope that you won't forget Bishop Ludden and your time at Bishop Ludden.